Okay, we are live. Hello, this is Attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. And I'm joined by two of my co-hosts this evening, Ms. Cassandra Woodard. Hello, Cassandra, how are you?
Hi,
How are you doing this evening?
I'm good. Just wondering where Miss G is.
I heard Ms. G can't be on this evening, but instead we have a surprise for everyone. Making a return, one of our first hosts of one of our shows many years ago is Cynthia Becker. Hello, Miss Becker. How are you?
I'm good. My name has changed, though.
Oh, that's right. You are married now. What is your last name now?
It is Terberg.
Spell that for me.
Terberg.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, it's a pleasure having you back on the show.
Thank you.
We should talk about your old show. I think it's still going on. I have to ask Grace. Cynthia is the original host of CPS The Horror Stories. Okay, and we have a very special guest tonight who is incognito, Mr. John Doe. Mr. Doe, how are you?
I'm doing great, Mr. Davis. It's really raining here in California. I'm here in Santa Clara County, and yeah.
Okay. Well, I noticed that today you have a mask on. Is there a reason
Yes,
are you worried about retaliation from CPS? Is that why you have your mask on?
yes, they use everything against you, and when they know that you are trying to know your rights, they they will get mad and they won't want to give your child. That's what I hear.
Okay. Well, very good. Before we so you already mentioned you're in Santa Clara County, or you're in California at least, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, why don't you tell us what's going on with you and CPS?
Okay, so there's an incident back a few months ago, and I, with the mother of my child, and I was worried. I was worried because she's going through postpartum psychosis right now. Um, she's going through a drug addiction. She's um, she's going through a lot, bipolar and schizophrenia. And I just felt her mother called me, and they all live together, the mom and the grandma, and she told me that she wasn't doing good that day. And I go to her home, and she's in the street acting weird from the drugs, holding my son. So I reported her to the San Jose police, and they showed up, and they they told her to get off in the middle of the street, and she wasn't listening. And she was holding the baby while experiencing her drug induced psychosis, and they ended up taking her to a psychiatric hospital after the incident, and they gave me my child. And the San Jose police asked me, "Do you he seems fine," even though the fire truck came and they were seeing if my child was okay. He's 1 year old, by the way. And he wasn't responding for at least 5 minutes. That's why the police officers called the fire department, the fire trucks. And he woke up. They told me he was fine, but in my heart, I knew I still wanted my son to be checked, because since he was born, he never got checked. His mother never took him to the hospital. He doesn't have his vaccines, and that's where we went. We went to the hospital, all the way to the Oakland Children's Hospital.
Can I ask you a couple questions?
Yes.
You said that he had never been to the hospital. Where did the mother give birth?
No, after she gave birth to him, he hasn't gone for any checkups, any uh, the shots that you're supposed to take when you're a baby, none of that stuff. And um, I was worried. I was worried.
I can totally understand that. Another question: how long has the mom been on the drugs? And if you don't mind me asking, are they like street drugs, or is it prescription medication that she's abusing? Or
Methamphetamine.
okay. And when the police came because you had called, did they come with CPS with them, or did they
No,
go themselves?
they came by themselves, and um, they she said that I was the father, but the police asked me if I had any proof, any documentation, if he was my son, because I'm not on the birth certificate. I just wanted to make it clear right now.
Have you had a have you been tested to see if you are the father?
Yes, CPS and the public defender, they ordered a DNA to be done, and it came out that he is my child.
Okay. And when did CPS actually get involved?
When he was in the hospital, when he was taken to Children's Hospital, the doctor told me he looks fine, and I told the doctor that I want a urine and blood drawn, a test. And so he was admitted to the hospital, even though they told me he looked fine. And within 24 hours, once he was already admitted to the hospital, I was in the hospital with him, with my child. The doctor calls me and says, "Your son has amphetamines in his system."
Wow. Was she breastfeeding him, or did he absorb it another way?
She stopped breastfeeding him at 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and um, I'm pretty sure she smokes it. She smokes it.
Okay.
And
So possibly inhaled it or something.
yes, and to come to find out, when I seen the jurisdiction report, it I seen that she had 31 referrals of CPS involved.
Wow.
She has she has other kids already. They're all grown. Um, but I did not know none of this. All of it is including methamphetamine. In the CPS reports, it's her two children were born with amphetamines in their system, and I didn't know none of this. I didn't know until CPS gave me the jurisdiction report during the juvenile court hearing.
Well, and I'm a firm believer in, even if you did know, the past is the past, and we're here now, and this is about you and
Yes,
your child. So,
yes,
um, so CPS comes to the hospital, correct?
yes.
The drugs in the system. And do they give the child to you? Do they give you the opportunity to take him?
Well, I was at the hospital for 3 days, and CPS lets me know that since I'm not on the birth certificate, he's not gonna go with me. And I was really devastated. Um, I was very honest with them what was going on. I did make a report about 4 months before this incident about what was going on, that she was doing drugs, and I met up with a CPS social worker, and I just let him know she's going through postpartum psychosis and she's doing drugs. She carelessly. I as a father, I've done a DNA test through the DNA kit at Walgreens that they sell for $30, and then you mail it in for I think 160, 170. I knew he was my son, but the thing is, every time I would drop diapers off, formula off, clothes once a week, I would notice that she leaves her drugs everywhere. Like she carelessly um just doesn't care. So I reported it to CPS, and CPS did a welfare check, and then they they told me that they went to the house to go check, and that it was inconclusive. and I was disappointed. I was disappointed because he told me he asked the mother if she's done drugs before, and she said no, and that's it.
Okay, so just so I can have a timeline really fast.
Okay.
You called 911. The police came. They brought him to the hospital. The doctors tested him. He had drugs in his system. The
Yes.
CPS comes. You've been there for 3 days. At this
Yes.
moment, you hadn't had the blood test for you and him. Vince, can you remind me what that's called? Because I'm like drawing a complete blank.
A drug test, you mean?
No, to see if you're the parent. Why can't I?
It's a DNA test.
Yes, but there's another word that I'm.
Paternity test.
Paternity test. Thank you. So at this point, you had not had the doctor's paternity test, correct?
Well, when he was in the hospital, no.
Okay.
And I specifically asked. The doctor wanted to give me my son back after he was in the hospital for 4 hours, and when I specifically asked for a urine and blood to be drawn, that's when they let him stay for 24 hours until they discovered that was in his system.
Right. So when CPS gets involved and they don't let you take him, where does he go? Does he?
He's in a foster care right now.
And how long has
Foster
this
home.
been going on?
2 months, almost 3.
So now that you have a paternity test, what is the reason they're not giving you your son back?
Well, that's the thing that I want to know. But I'm going through the programs that they're asking, but I do have sexual battery, a misdemeanor from 4 years ago, and they mentioned that to the judge.
Okay.
Was the battery against a minor or against an adult?
Against a minor.
Wow. Okay.
And this happened 4 years ago. I'm not on the Megan's registry. I'm not registered as a sex offender, but I did get charged with that. And that's what they're bringing up in the jurisdiction report. That's why they think that it's like
Not
it's not a good idea.
right.
And the thing is, before we went to court, we spoke to the social worker. With my mother and my father and the grandmother or the mother of the mom of my child,
Mm-hmm.
and we all agreed that we wanted my child to go with my father and mother.
You don't live with them?
No.
Did they give the child to your mother and father?
No.
Why not?
Because at the moment it wasn't proved that he was my child.
Okay, but now you said the DNA proves that he's your child. Why haven't they
Yes.
moved the child to your mother and father?
That's what I'm trying to find out.
Who's your attorney?
It's a public defender.
We don't need a name. It's okay.
But the thing is, I just feel like she's going with like I've seen the shows previous here, and I've seen that public defenders, when it's involving CPS and juvenile courts, they're gonna go with what CPS says. They're gonna try to go with the flow with the juvenile court, and not really try to put work for you, because they're not getting paid. Regardless, they're gonna get paid anyway.
So, Vince, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
This might sound stupid, but I just really want to know if so he has this on his he has this charge against him from the past.
A PC 2434 PC 243.4 misdemeanor.
So let me ask you, with somebody that has a misdemeanor like this in their past, are they allowed to have children?
Yes. If you had, one of the things he said earlier that he's not on Megan's list, it's not a felony.
Mhm.
Now, don't get me wrong, it's something that the judge should consider. I'm not saying the judge shouldn't consider it, but the social worker has to prove
Right.
that even with that conviction, that he is a substantial danger to the child. And if it happened 4 years ago, and presumably he's been on some type of probation and done classes and all of that, I'm not sure that they had enough evidence to keep the child away from him. Now, I don't know anything about his case. I'm just
Right.
imagining, myself and guessing.
Mhm.
There might have been a lot of other things that happened in this case. I don't know. But if I were representing him, just from what he's telling us, I would have probably had a trial at the disposition hearing, maybe even at the jurisdictional hearing, because I don't think it's a strict liability kind of thing. In other words, if convicted of a misdemeanor, you come under the jurisdiction of the juvenile court. Yeah, I don't believe that that's true. But even if you do come under the jurisdiction of the juvenile court, they still have to prove at the disposition that you are clear and convincing evidence of a substantial danger. And here's the kicker, no less restrictive alternatives. Here's one of the kickers that he could have done, and I would bet $1 nobody considered this. They could have given him the kid on the condition that he lived with his parents
Right.
to make sure that there were no problems. And, on the condition that he continue in testing. Excuse me, not testing, continue in counseling. Mr. John Doe, did you even have a trial or did you not have a trial?
To be honest, right now the mother she's contesting what they're trying to put on her.
No,
Um,
no, I'm talking about you. I'm not talking about the mother.
we didn't get to that point yet.
Oh, how many court hearings have you gone to?
Two, but the last one, the mother didn't show up.
Okay, so we're not going to worry about the mother at this point.
Okay,
She's not on the show. It doesn't have
okay,
anything to do with what you're doing in your case
yeah,
and that you want the child. So let me tell you, I'm going to give you a little framework, okay, that you might
okay,
want to discuss with your lawyer. Number one, you should have a trial, a jurisdictional trial, to try to prove that your conviction is not jurisdictional. Now, you may lose that trial, but it sets up the next hearing that comes right on the back of that, and that's the disposition hearing. You see, even though you were convicted 4 years ago, in order for them to prove or to keep the child away from you, they have to prove by clear and convincing evidence that you are a substantial danger, not just a danger, a substantial danger. And they have to prove by clear and convincing evidence that there are no less restrictive alternatives, right? Now, I just told you one of the less restrictive alternatives. You get the kid and live with your parents, and they agree not to leave you alone with the child, and you continue in counseling. That's just a less restrictive alternative I'm thinking of off the top of my head, not knowing anything about your case. I would bet $1 that if you read your disposition report, that the social worker hasn't even considered any less restrictive alternatives, you know? And
yeah,
one of the things that you and your attorney have to challenge at the time of the hearing, is that they didn't do that. Unless there's something about the case I don't know, and there probably is, but I wouldn't accept the fact that I have a conviction as, that's it, kid goes to foster care. And above all, and here's another important fact, above all, whether you win or lose, you have to fight to get this child with a friendly relative or a family friend.
Well, that's what he's saying. Why is this child not with his parents?
Right. But what I don't want him to do is go to the trial and just argue it because he's going to lose.
Right.
Okay. He has to put on evidence like the testimony of his parents or the testimony of the other relatives, And here, hey, Mr. Doe, here's one of the things I tell clients. Give me a list of 25 names of people who are related to you or family friends that could take care of this child while the child is not in your care.
Could. Not will, but could.
Hey, let me give a shout out to Sarita Palmoa. Sarita, thank you for the super chat. It's greatly appreciated.
That's my mother.
Oh, it is. Ms. Palmoa, thank you. But you see, you gotta make this a trial issue. A lot of attorneys, and sometimes I get the feeling judges don't want to have this issue at trial. They want the social worker to consider it and make the determination. It's my humble opinion, it's just my opinion, that you have the absolute right to put on evidence to show that the child should be placed with any particular relative. And by the way, for those of you watching in a similar situation, the relative doesn't have to live in your county or your city.
Or your state.
Yeah, relative could live anywhere in California, anywhere in the United States, and in many foreign countries. A couple years ago, I was involved in a case where the kids went to Switzerland. Involved in a lot of cases where the kids go to Mexico. We're so close to the Mexican border, you know. So explore that issue with your attorney.
Okay.
Right? The next hearing, the contested jurisdictional and contested dispositional hearing are the most important hearings in the entire CPS process. And what I hear a lot of people say is, well, my attorney told me just take a plea, let the kid go to foster care, and you'll get the kid in 6 months if you do everything that they tell you to do. Okay? Now, in my opinion, sometimes, not all the time, sometimes that's the biggest lie that they could ever tell you. You know why? Because the social worker who's going to be assigned to the case 6 months from now hasn't even been determined. It's not going to be the social worker who's on the case right now. Okay?
Okay.
So, if you're going to have a trial now. Make the judge make the hard decisions now. And if you don't like what the judges decide, appeal it. That's why God made the Court of Appeals. You can appeal what judges decide. Do you have a court-appointed attorney?
I do. And CPS, the CPS lawyer and my lawyer and the judge, they're all in favor of my son going with my father. He has no criminal record. His background's clean. The placement worker for CPS, she keeps telling him the things that he has to do, but I don't know why it's difficult. He keeps telling me, my father keeps telling me that he's doing everything that the placement worker is asking, with the fingerprints, with the background, and my child still hasn't gone with my father.
Well, you know, I want to be honest with you. What you're telling me, and I see this all the time, all over California, is they really don't want to place the child with your father. Now, why? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But let me tell you something. If you had a worker that wanted to give you your child, give the grandfather the child, he'd have the child right now. Because they could give him a lot of assistance and help him out and not make him jump over 1,000 hoops. You know, but when they keep the child away from him, you know, that means something else. Who knows what's going on? Ryan?
My father, he's a very good man. He's taking care of my 9-year-old niece. Her father isn't in the picture. My sister lives with him. She's actually a teacher around the area in San Jose. And he's raised my 9-year-old niece like his own daughter. He's a very loving grandpa. He's never been arrested. And I just feel like CPS, they're just like in the beginning, my son was at the hospital, I trusted them to be the good guys. I had to go through a lot to get my son out of danger in the hands of his mother, only to 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 now start with CPS and now get him out the hands of CPS.
Right.
I love my son a lot. I've taken care of him for 1 week, 2 weeks at times. Um, I've never hurt him. I love my son so much, and every second, every hour that passes, I think about my son, his safety. If I was just a dad that didn't care, I wouldn't be in the picture. I wouldn't be trying to uh, help him to keep him out of danger. My son could have died in the hands of his mother.
Mhm.
Okay, my son is 1 year old. He had methamphetamine in his system. Okay, and I'm happy. I'm happy that CPS took the baby away from her, but how they're handling the situation, it's just they're trying to take advantage. They keep stalling, like next month, and I know that with their bonuses, they care about the money. So I thought that CPS really cared about reuniting families.
It's very sad. It's very sad, and this is heartbreaking. Like most of these stories are. I have two questions for you. You had mentioned that they have you in classes. What classes do they have you in right now?
Well, I know you've mentioned not to talk about the mother of my child, but while she was in the psychiatric care, CPS went to go ask her in the mental hospital, um, how did the how did your son get methamphetamine in his system? And she acknowledged that she used methamphetamine 2 weeks prior to the accident. It's all on the jurisdiction report. She admitted it 2 weeks prior, and CPS asked her, "Do you think he could have picked up any residue from the ground?" And she said no. And then on the jurisdiction report, she blamed me. It was me that gave it to him, and I don't even live with her. And right now, the classes that I'm doing, I'm getting drug tested 2 times a week, and I have 19 drug tests already, all clean. I'm going to parenting classes 2 hours once a week. I haven't missed anything, and I'm going to my scheduled visits to see my son for 90 minutes a week, and my mother and father went to the last visit
How often are your visits? Once a week for 90 minutes?
once a week.
And where are they? Who supervises them?
Um, One of the workers at the non, it's a place where they supervise visits
Okay.
through the
And
court.
right. And how is the family that has your son right now?
I see that they're good people.
Are
Very,
Sorry, are they encouraging of you getting your son back?
they were encouraging me and the mother. And they were like, just do the classes to get your unification, you
Okay.
know. And I have no problem. I'll do whatever I can to get my son back. That's my baby.
Right, of
Okay.
course. The
And
reason I asked that is like many others, one thing that I had struggled with was the foster parent not wanting to give up the children. So
hmm.
I was just wondering if that happened to be a hurdle for you.
um, Well, I haven't spoken to them like that, but to be honest, all these programs, it's not even the programs that I'm doing, it's not even court ordered yet.
Vince,
Hmm.
what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think he's trying to do everything that he can do to get the child placed with him. And unfortunately, from what he said, it seems like they're looking to give the child, to his father. At least maybe the judge is. I don't know about the social worker. Like I said, if the social worker was looking towards giving the child to his father, that would have happened already. It
Mm-hmm.
hasn't happened. I can only, wonder. And Mr. Doe, I'm wondering if your father has thought about trying to get an attorney himself.
We
Uh,
are. We are. We are. Because to be honest, my public defender, she's I'm asking her to do a lot of things because I see your shows, all these motions you could file, and she doesn't want to do it. I just feel like public defenders, they just want to go with the flow with CPS, with the court, just for the annual funds to get more. You know, they're not really interested, like to be in that type of work, like a social worker. I heard you can't even have kids. And for a social worker, for me, I feel like a lot of them are in it for bonuses, for their money, for their careers. They're not interested in really reuniting families 100%. Maybe in some cases, but in a lot, they just want bonuses. It's all about money for them.
well, that's what some people theorize. I won't say that because I don't know these workers. But I do have a thought in my mind why your father doesn't have the child. And the only thing that I can think of is something, diabolical, like, oh, maybe it must be the money. I don't know. I don't know anything about your father's background, but assuming everything you said is true, like he's raising another minor child, they're going to have a pretty hard time not placing that child with him. And if they don't place the child with him, your father, I would suggest he talk to an attorney about filing an appeal. There is really no reason that he shouldn't have the child right now. And as a matter of fact, if they keep jerking him around, he might want to file a complaint with the state and the federal government now, because it becomes, you know, very strange. What you're in, what county are you in?
Santa Clara County.
Okay, so I've done a case or two in that county, and I would say, sometimes, I got the impression that, it was a strong CPS county. You know, CPS had a lot of power, and um, you know, they were very organized in how they built cases against parents and relatives.
Yes.
Sometimes I go to a county and they're kind of sloppy, right? But sometimes you go to a county and these people are serious. They've done their work. They've dotted their I's, crossed their T's. That doesn't mean they're right, but that just means they're going to try to win the case in court. And that's all that really matters, is that you convince the judge. And if you don't convince the judge and you have a viable appeal it. Keep the pressure on them to do the right thing. This is important. I don't know if you realize this, but you could lose your child permanently.
Yes, yes. And to be honest, I'm very honest. I don't. When it comes to my child, I don't play games. Like to be honest, I could have this on my record, but once you become a parent, your perspective on life changes. Like 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 whatever you were doing, whatever, it's about your baby. It's about your baby being happy. It's about giving a good life to your son or daughter. And and I had a question regarding my father. Um, so if just say if my sister has a DUI from 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, would that affect the situation?
Yes, it is something that they will seriously consider, and they will beat that drum loud if they don't want the sister to get the child. It depends, on how old the conviction is and what your sister has done since, the conviction. Like, did she do her classes? Did she successfully finish the probation? That type of thing.
Well, the CPS said that this happened 2 years ago, and the CPS said that she needs to write a letter to them telling them about she's not going to like do that, like drink again. But the thing is, my sister, to be honest, she's doing really good. Even though she has a DUI, she's a teacher right now. She, yeah.
Well, that makes a
Uh,
lot of difference, by the way. You had a DUI, but you still have your job and you're with, 20 kids
Yeah,
a day, 50 kids a day,
Mhm.
100 kids a day. I mean, that's
and
pretty
and
substantial.
and she got a lawyer, and the lawyer, she paid whatever she had to pay. She went, like you said, the whatever she had to do, she's done it already.
Right.
And,
Well,
and that's the thing that I want to wonder, like the placement worker keeps asking for a lot of things, and and I'm not gonna let my son go to adoption. No way,
well,
I'm
well, tell your sister whatever questions the placement worker is asking, she should cooperate and answer those questions, because if she doesn't, that's going to be used against her, and that they will use that to keep the child away from her. So the fact
yeah,
that your sister is cooperating, but here's the thing, and I know I haven't explained the strategy in a long time, but a list of 25 names with telephone numbers goes a long, long way.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, that grandfather who they were iffy about becomes like a really good place to place the kid. Because what if you have an uncle in Los Angeles County, right?
yeah,
Who's a kindergarten teacher, never been arrested, and who would automatically qualify. They don't want the child to go out of the county, because they lose control, physical control, but they also lose monetary control. The federal money follows the child. And heaven forbid your uncle lived in Las Vegas, a whole nother state, or
yeah,
Florida, right? And there's something called the Interstate Compact for the Placement of Children. These children are supposed to be placed with relatives and family friends, NERFRMs, they call them NERFRMs, um, before foster parents. And it doesn't matter where they live. They could live in another state, another country, another county. So, get that list, because if you start, getting a list with people over in Las Vegas and down in LA and over in Florida,
Mhm.
guess what? Your grandpa, he becomes the prime candidate. They're going to love him because he's
yeah,
in town, he's in the county. They can maintain control and they get to keep the federal money.
And not only that, but if they don't put your child, with anybody on your list, that's just another thing for the future. God forbid you have to go to trial, or even after the case, that you have in your evidence, because you need to build that folder.
yeah. To be honest, I got so many family that they know what's going on. A lot of family, they've offered me to they want the child, but the thing is, the main person that I would love is my father. He's
Hey,
never.
Mr. Doe, you're not literally listening to me. Okay. I told you to make the list and give that list to your social worker and your attorney. All right.
Okay.
You need to force them to give the child to your father. Right
Mhm.
now, you haven't done anything. You got all these family members, and you don't want to put their names up because you're afraid they might get the kid instead of your father. I'm telling you, your father, as the paternal grandfather, has priority over a lot of the relatives. A lot of people don't know this, but the code provides priorities to certain relatives. And paternal grandfather is one of those priority relatives.
Mhm.
So look, force them, force them.
Okay.
Talk to your father. Maybe he should get a lawyer to represent him at the dispositional hearing.
Okay. The
Right?
thing is, how I was alleged father when this whole thing started, and just recently I was made presumed father, and I think that's what you're explaining.
No,
They
no,
didn't know I was really.
no. Hold on. That's not. I wasn't explaining anything about presumed and alleged. But now that you mention it, all right, there is a big difference. But let's suffice it to say, for your case, now that you're presumed, you're good to go. Except for now you got to fight to get the count thrown out against you, or get the kid placed with you, or to help your relative, whoever it may be, on that list of 25 people, get the kid. You have to get the kid with a friendly relative or family friend. You have to get the kid out of foster care. Now, don't put all your marbles in one, or eggs in one basket. Don't think that the social worker or the judge is going to give the kid to your father or your sister. I'm telling you right now, after I have done thousands of these cases all over California, that doesn't always happen. Now, we can talk about why that happens on another show. But for your case, I'm telling you what to do.
Okay.
Okay? Now, you can listen to what I said, or you cannot listen to it.
I will.
All right. I want to tell you something, Mr. Doe. The lady that's co-hosting with me tonight is a former client. Did you know that?
No.
Cynthia, how many years has it been?
6.
6 years. Cynthia got her kids back.
Oh, that's a blessing.
After I fought for 1.5 years, almost 2 years.
Oh, 2 years.
And all of the charges against me were alleged. None of them were found true. All of them were thrown out. Even then, I still was fighting for my kids.
And look, I'm going to tell you something, John Doe. I don't think I've ever told Cynthia this. If Cynthia doesn't find me, she doesn't get her kids back.
Oh, I knew that. You didn't have to tell me that.
I'm telling John. John, I know what I'm doing. All right? At least in these types of cases. Everything else in life, I may be a screw up, but strategy on these cases, I know what I'm doing. So please take this to heart. I know you're not taking notes, and I don't expect you, but this video is going to be on 8 different social media platforms forever. If you need to look at it again, you look at it again. You talk to your attorney about it, okay, so that you can have a very good idea of what I'm trying to tell you. Okay?
Yes.
How about this? I called more than 50 attorneys to help take my case. All of them told me that my case was too complicated, number 1. Number 2, finally, when Vince did hear about my case and take my case, I think I got my kids back. I was doing 1 hour a week. One visit a week for 2 hours supervised. And I was a full-time parent. My children were a little older. They were older than yours. So mine were 4 and 6 at the time of being taken. As soon as Vince walked into that courtroom that day, I left with unsupervised visits, followed by I think 3 weeks later with full weekends. And then after that, I think it was in a matter of 2 months, I had my kids back full time.
That's great. That's good. So I had a question. How old was your kid when this happened?
4 and 6.
So with my child, since he's under 3, they're giving me until May. So this happened in October, the incident, and they're giving me till May, 6 months to decide.
No, John. You've already bought into the script that the social worker is selling you. All right? That's not the script you want to go by. Talk to your lawyer, please. But the script you want to go into is, thank you very much, social worker, for letting me wait 6 months, but I want my kid back now.
Yeah.
Right now. And if we have to have a trial, let's have a trial. Okay? And you prove your case. Don't forget, if you don't have a trial, I say this to people all the time. If you don't have a trial, you're going to lose, period. And I'm not talking about a trial where your attorney gets up there and argues, because attorney argument is nothing. It's not evidence. The law is clear in California. It is not evidence, and you will lose, because the social worker has the social worker reports. They have evidence. So you better put on some evidence, witnesses, cross-examine the social worker, Put your parents on the stand, put your other relatives on the stand. You have to get this kid out of foster care, okay? Because there are people waiting in the wings to keep your child and adopt your child to make the child their own.
Hmm.
A lot of people don't believe this kind of stuff happens in our country.
It
You know,
does.
I tell this to people, and they're like, "Come on, he's exaggerating. He's
My
exa-
friend, I had a friend of mine. We've been friends since I was 18 years old. He took me to lunch one day, and he's a police officer. And he reached across the table and he grabbed my hands and he goes, "You can tell me." And I said, "Tell you what?" And he goes, "You can tell me what you did. CPS doesn't just take your kids away for no reason." And I was like, "They did." I'm telling you, they did. People don't believe it.
Cynthia, there's a question from Deidre Payne. Do you see it?
Yes, I did, Deidre. I sure did. I have them back full time. My daughter is going to be 13, and my son is 10.
Here's a question from Jenna. This is a very interesting question. Cynthia, are you scared CPS will eventually show back up, take your kids again? I've heard that happens very often.
It is a fear that I don't think will ever leave. Sometimes I even get scared when my kids are sick for a period of time and they miss school. Oh my gosh, are they going to call CPS? I mean, you name it. Yeah, the fear is there, but I know my rights. But again, at the same time, the fear and the power that they have, it's very scary. Being vocal like this is scary.
We're running out of time. There's one thing I want to tell you, Jenna. It was either during, but for sure after her case. Cynthia's case ended up in the newspapers,
Mm-hmm.
and as I recall, the articles were very unfavorable to me.
And me.
I was the devil for trying to help Cynthia get her kids or getting her kids back. And I never did anything like sue the newspaper guy. I just let it die out. But it's funny how people get parts of the story and how things can be twisted and turned. But luckily, she got her kids back, and it's been 6 years, and they're growing up in her custody.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
So,
Mr. Doe.
Mr. David,
Yes.
so I'm not trying to talk about the mother of my child too much, but since she's being charged with a PC 273 compliant warrant for the incident that happened, cruelty to child with possible with physical harm or possible death. So if she's being charged with that, is it going to be more difficult for her to get the child back?
The answer is yes. But here's something I want to tell you. And I know it's kind of hard,
Yeah.
You should put out of your mind
Mm-hmm.
anything that's happening between CPS and the mother. And here's why. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with whether you get the child back, based upon what you've told me so far. Worry about yourself. Worry about you getting the child back, you working with your attorney, you working and helping your father or some other friendly relative to get this child back. Okay?
So if my public defender, my attorney, if I'm telling her to do this and that, and she's not agreeing with me, what's your opinion when you feel like your public defender isn't truly trying to to defend you? She's just going with what CPS, the attorney's saying.
Okay. That's a very good question, and I'm going to give you my honest answer. No matter who the attorney is, if you're not getting the service you think you deserve, you can ask the judge for a new attorney, or you can hire your own attorney. Okay?
Okay.
All right. No matter, a lot of people say they threaten the attorney and they talk about the attorney and this and that. None of that's going to get what you want. Okay, you want the child back,
Yes.
right?
Of
So,
course. God knows it. CPS knows it. Everyone knows it.
so don't try to fit a square peg in a round hole. If your attorney doesn't want to assist you the way you want to be assisted, it's okay. Shake hands and just get another attorney. That's the beauty of our system. You can get another attorney. You're not stuck with just one person.
How about the judge? I heard that the judge could be um you could ask for another judge as well if the judge is just agreeing with what the CPS attorney's saying.
Well, I've heard that comment a lot about different judges. And, what I find most of all is that the reason that happens may be a shortcoming on your part or on your attorney's part. You're not providing the judge with contradictory evidence to show the judge that CPS is wrong. Remember, the social worker writes a report. By law, the judge must consider it. You understand that? By law, the judge must consider the social worker's report and admit it into evidence. Now, if you don't have any evidence to contradict that, you lose. That's not the judge being biased against you. It's the judge just making a decision based upon the evidence in front of him or her.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't want to believe that.
When I reported the incident, everybody knows that I've reported the incident. Everybody tells me that I saved my child's life. Because if at that exact moment he tested positive for methamphetamine, how many days out of his year he was inhaling that?
Right.
Out of one random day, he tested positive. So it's been continuing, and everybody knows it. And the social worker never on the jurisdiction report says, even though she says I've made a report, they don't give me credit. They don't give me thanks.
Hold on. I'm going to interrupt you.
Okay.
I'm going to say something new, and then I'm going to repeat something that Vince said, okay? So listen clearly. And Vince had to tell me this over and over. And I think he even had to slam his hand on the desk. Okay, so listen. There's my hand on the desk. Number one, stop worrying about yesterday. It does not matter. You are worrying about this moment and tomorrow. Yes, you saved your son from that. Now you got to save him from foster care. Okay, is that understood?
Yes.
Okay, it doesn't matter what you've done, who you talk to, all these great things. Thank God you did what you did, but now you're in this situation and you need to look forward. Okay? Number two, Vince said, stop worrying about the mom. That is so important. I struggled with that as well. I was married to their dad for 12 years, and I kept saying, but what about? It doesn't matter. You are worried about your relationship with your son and getting him out of foster care, and you need to do what you need to do right now to get your son and to save him from all of that, which is including the mother. She needs to worry about her. You can't help her until she helps herself.
And the thing is, I'm fighting for my son, like every day. That even without a court order, I'm doing everything that they're asking. Like to be honest, I don't even do drugs, and I've been 19 drug tests, which my attorney stated to the judge, the father's doing everything possible to get his son back. But then, like we talked before, CPS mentioned about what I did a few years ago with my 243.4.
It doesn't matter. Your job is to do what? Eyes forward. Like Vince said, get your evidence that you need to get together. Look forward, stop worrying about the mom, keep doing what you're doing, and build your evidence.
And I could promise you, I am one of the world's best dads out there. I could promise you that. I love being a dad. My son makes me so happy. My son makes me so happy. I will. I'll give my life to save my son's life.
So you
Like
know what
my
you
son
gotta
makes me
do?
so
Listen,
happy.
listen. Have character witness letters. People that you know, not just family. If you go to church, your pastor, if you know whomever has seen you with your son, that's not just family, have them write statements and why
Yeah.
you're a good dad. Okay, I know we're out of time. I think it'd be excellent for you to book a consult with Mr. Davis, whether he even is your attorney or for your father.
Yes.
Okay.
And just to mention, when I was just a alleged follower, I was granted visitation rights because it was stated. But like I know I'm just stating what was said on the first court appearance. The judge asked the mother of my child, does was he there providing diapers, formula, uh, and essentials for the baby, aside from for $150 a week, and all of that was proved yes, and that's why I was granted visitation rights as an alleged father, and there's two different judges at that time, and the new judge was all like, I don't even know how you got visitation rights as an alleged father, but then I read the notes that you did this, you were there before the baby was born and after the baby was born.
But John, unfortunately, there's nothing that can be done about that first judge or what that guy did or this person did. You
Yeah.
have to stay looking forward.
Okay.
And
Hey,
I know
John.
that sounds horrible, but you can't get stuck in all of the what ifs and this happened, but they did this to me, because if you're going to be doing that, you're literally going to stay right there.
Hey, John, I have to tell you, she's 110% correct. Hey,
Yeah.
John, we've come to the end of the show, man. I want to appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. And thank you for sharing. We wish you luck. If you want to have a consult with me, the number's in the bottom right-hand corner, or you can also
Okay.
contact Grace directly. Cynthia, thank you. Welcome back to the family. Thank you for being on the show tonight. And
Okay.
hopefully we're going to see more of you on the horror stories. Alrighty, folks. We'll see everyone tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. We'll have our show on, what is it? Tomorrow will be, what, Wednesday or Tuesday? No, Tuesday night. Tuesday night show, 7 p.m. We'll see everyone then tomorrow night. Good night, all.
Okay. Mr. Davis and Cynthia, God bless you both.
Thank
Thank
you.
you as well.